Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Admiral Markets. My name is Chris. Thanks for joining us in this live trading webinar where I take a look at the Forex market. Hope you had a pleasant and good weekend, and hope your trading is going well. How's it going? Are you in any trades at the moment? This is the 18th of August, and as we head over to this disclaimer quickly to explain the fact that this webinar is intended for a global audience, it may not be suitable for everyone. Therefore, take a look at admiralmarketsglobal.com, select your country of residence, and contact an appropriate entity to find out if this is suitable for you and for other details and conditions. Also, trading for exchange or global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for everyone. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This webinar is not advice and is for informational and educational purposes only. And by continuing watching this webinar, you agree with this disclaimer. And you're also aware of the risks involved when trading. Take a look at Admiral Markets' website. MetaTrader 4 Supreme Edition is a program or is a version of MetaTrader 4 that has 56 additional features, including, for instance, an alarm management system. That's very useful as well. So a lot of good things. Take a look at that on the website. Good. So today we're going to focus on Camarilla. Always sounds funny to me, or it sounds like some song, but it's a very useful indicator and very good for detecting support and resistance, for detecting breakout and bounce spots on intraday trading. So that will be our main focus, but we'll be using, just analytical tools, of course, like moving averages, trends to define which pair could be interesting to trade perhaps today, or at least you'll see my vision on that. Alrighty, well, let's first of all, before taking a look at the charts, let's take a look at the calendar and see what's going on. We had meeting minutes on the Aussie. We have an inflation rate on the pound, and some other lighter and medium news. Tomorrow, of course, we do have FOMC meeting minutes, 2 p.m. Eastern time, and that's going to be interesting. I mean, September is getting close. It's next month, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see if that rate hike is going to occur. I mean, I think the odds are decreasing by the day, I guess, but especially tomorrow. It's going to be very interesting to see if September still has a chance, or will it maybe become December or perhaps beginning of 2016. Otherwise, today it's inflation rate. So let's head over to the charts here. Let me grab the charts like this. Good. Start with the euro dollar. And first of all, maybe ask you, how are you doing? I see that Caitlin is in a euro yen and dollar CAD. Beverly is doing fine. Let's see. Quite a lot of echo. Okay, that is, oh, I think I know why. All right, let me try to fix that. The microphone was not properly plugged in. It was just a tad outside of it. Let me use this new hardware. Let's see, do you hear me anything better now, perhaps? Strange that it doesn't work. Okay, give me 1 second. I'll try to, in the meantime, switch the headsets. All right. Anyhow, I'll do some testing. Hopefully it'll be going. Yeah, how's your trading going? I got some questions on the Camarilla. I can answer those. What's the best time frame to trade Camarilla? Camarilla is, you can use it for any pair. It depends really. Oh, the best time frame, sorry. Well, I think that you can use it really for all time frames, but I tend to use it more for intraday trading. So I'll take a look at the 15, 30-minute chart, 1-hour chart. The Camarilla is calculated automatically. And if you're interested in having that indicator, all right, take a look at that. All right, the sound is better now. Great. That's because I now using the headset instead of the microphone. The microphone not working, unfortunately, after the fact. Let's see. So yeah, if you're interested in Camarilla, just send me an email. I'll write that down. That's Chris_Sworcik@hotmail.com. And I'll send you that Camarilla indicator. Let me write that down here too, quickly. All right. Well, trading in August, I'm not a big fan of it. I always tend to take it a bit easier. I didn't take any holiday myself, but not really taking a lot of trades, but keeping an eye on the market. And if there is something very interesting, I take a trade or two, but definitely less volume than other months. And it's a good time to take a holiday in general in August. I didn't do so this year, but it does make sense. So here's my email if you want to take that, if you want to have that Camarilla. Okay, so we'll dive into the Camarilla, but a bit later on after I, do some main analysis on the euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar yen, and odd USD, for instance, and we can dive in and use the Camarilla. That's what I would propose. And let's see. Nice, Beverly. Got some profit, I think. Great stuff. Alrighty. So euro dollar, what do you think? Well, obviously still in a range, and tomorrow's FOMC will certainly have its impact. What we had, ultimately we had a bounce off the 88.6 fib here, hook back, and we're looking for the fact that there's a good chance we'll get a bounce. We did get a bounce, and we rallied all the way up to the -272 target. Right. So from that point of view, we see a retracement again. It could be, in a way, more bullish from this point of view because of the fact that we hit the target, and this is just a retracement for one more push up to the real top of the range, right? Let me get rid of my email here, put it a bit lower. The top of this range is probably about here, all the way up to this level, right? That's a bit strange. Let me make that red. So relatively speaking, there's quite some space to the upside there, okay? Downside, I'm seeing fib levels, so there's a tad of space, but all of these fib levels could be a bouncing spot in my opinion. The real level that needs to be broken is 108. Once 108 breaks, then there's more space to the downside. So from that point of view, I see more potential for upside than for downside. And but it could stay choppy today and tomorrow until that news event. That would not surprise me either. Ultimately, if I just look at it from a technical without looking at the news events, then I would think that the 38.2 fib here, let me move up the fib now from here to here. The 38.2 or 50, especially the 50 fib and the 61.8, there's a confluence that this broken trend line used to be resistance, could now be support. So from that point of view, I still see it as more as a bouncing spot, but it still hasn't reached the 50. As you can see, we're just a bit shy. Let's dive into the 4-hour chart. And you can see 110.30, 110-ish. That would be a good bouncing spot. Price is at 110.70, reached 110.50. So let's dive into the 1 hour chart. So if this is a correction, then this could be a three-wave correction like this. This is the 4 hour chart. Sorry about that. Here we go. 4 hour chart, as you can see, didn't reach the 50 or 61.8 fib. Still a bit short. All right. Now, if we dive into the 1 hour chart, we can see that this could be a correction. So let's put a fib on this very first move down. We see a 78.6 fib bounce right here. Weakness, didn't break this top. And the target of that, minus 272, which lines up pretty neatly with the 50 fib. That target, we came close. We just missed it by a few pips. So it has come close to this region. Would like it to maybe dip down just a tad more still, personally. These are sometimes a bit of a difficult things, because is this close enough? Or should we expect a real full hit? Sometimes it's not as clear. Sometimes it can miss the fibs by a few pips, and those are then sometimes cases where we wait for a deeper move down and it doesn't happen. So, but anyhow, I don't think there's any rush, and rather in this case, wait for a bit deeper, or the alternative would have to be some kind of breakout. Let's see, probably above this trend line, break, pullback, continue. We can use the Camarilla for identifying the breakout levels. All right, so here you can see a good confluence, and here you see a good confluence. Somewhere in here could be a good turning spot, in my opinion. So with that said, let's clean the chart up. Take a look at the weekly chart quickly, and then we'll dive into the 15-minute chart. So ultimately, 108, very important, because if we break below 108, this downtrend will continue probably. So that's an important level. Otherwise, we're still stuck in this range, and there's that chance that price can go to the top of it. That's the weekly scenario. Now let's take a look at Camarilla. Alrighty. Got moving averages added as well. So a break above H3 and these moving averages, break above 111. Probably need to see that before upside is interesting. Probably see a move up to H4, a hook back to the pivot point, and then a bounce. That could be a interesting intraday upside potential. Alrighty. Downside, I would think below L3. Could be a breakout, obviously, but in this case, I have my doubts because of the fact that we're bumping into big support fibs. So from that scenario, I wouldn't like the downside Camarilla levels. Just looking at the long-term charts, like the 4 hour chart. I would be also bumping into a long-term moving average. That could be a bouncing spot. There are reasons to see that this could be a bouncing spot. So Camarilla is great, but sometimes using higher time frames to filter out one or the other level or one of the other sides is useful. Okay, so ultimately, I think that this is a very choppy chart, that we could still be a bouncing spot above 108, and that we could see a rally up to resistance, and if it does break through support, we could see the downtrend continue. And obviously, the downtrend will probably continue sooner if an interest rate hike is coming, or there's mention about it and there's more confirmation that it could come this year. So I think ultimately this is just trades within this wedge between green and reds, between support and resistance. And really, in the long term, a bearish break will have to happen for the euro dollar to really get some steam and some good trades to the downside. If it does move up, then there could be some interesting smaller short-term potential like this up to 114, 113, perhaps even up to 117 at the very max. So that's my euro dollar thoughts. Nothing really much changed. And let's move on to the pound dollar. Or do you have anything else you want to discuss about this euro dollar? Yeah, indeed. Good point. That's a nice trend line. That was a good bounce and a good hook back. Let's see. There was a trend line like this that got broken. Yeah. Yeah, we had that one on the chart as well. And yeah, that could provide support. Moving averages too. Ultimately, I think we can find support somewhere in here. But the very max would be the bottom. Maybe a second hook back to this trend line. It's possible too. Anywhere above this bottom, from here to here, could find the support. That's a wide range, so have to take a look at hourly and 4-hour charts to see where price action sees a bounce. Let's take a look at the pound. Let me move back this euro dollar. I deleted it by accident. By the way, if you like our webinars, I would definitely appreciate telling others. And if you email a friend or two about these webinars, then that would be great. Let's see. Let me grab the link here. admiralmarkets.com/education/webinars. And if you would share that, that would be awesome. All right. The more people, the better. All right. Pound dollar. We're looking at kind of an ascending wedge. First of all, we have a strong, well, not a strong, but a shallow, sturdy channel to the upside, support, resistance here. If we then zoom in, we see that there's a resistance level that's very thick. Talked about that. Not to go long in front of it. If anything, perhaps even find a potential fade trade there, because it is a very thick level. And while a level like that is not easily broken, so if one is looking for a bounce trade, this is a pretty good zone to look for that. And if anyone was looking for it, there was a pretty good 4-hour candle with a wick, doji, not a bad one. I think if anyone traded that, it made a lot of sense. Well, in any case, it turned out to be a good one because it's fallen already pretty strongly. So if you put the stop loss above that candle high, you're already looking at about 1.5 to 1 R2R at this moment. That was a pretty good trade. We talked about that last week or the week before even perhaps. In any case, that was a good bounce trade. Now it's still within this wedge. It's about halfway yet again. And ultimately, this could be an ascending wedge. We have a flat top. We have a bullish angled support. So typically ascending wedges, these type of chart patterns have a higher probability of a bullish break. So what does that mean? A bounce off the same trend lines could still be very interesting. Stop loss below the invalidation level, which is this bottom here, because if it breaks that bottom, it's breaking the trend line and support, and we could see perhaps a downtrend continue. And besides the bounce at support, there's a potential for a breakout, but that could be difficult to trade. Depends on how it breaks. Would like to see a daily candle close above it. This is an ascending wedge. Ascending wedges have a flat top and an angled support line. So something like this. That's an ascending wedge, like that. Descending wedge would have a flat bottom, all right, and price coming in like this, a trend line like that. That's a descending wedge. Do you know this pattern, Kate Dillon? Ascending and descending wedge. A contracting wedge would be like this, where the trend lines are like that. Wedge or triangles are basically the same. Or an expanding wedge, of course, would be where the trend lines are like this, going away from each other. So from that point of view, it's interesting to keep an eye on these two lines. Let's dive into 1 hour chart. You can see now there's momentum to the downside, so there could be maybe a chance to get down here. Is that interesting? Well, as you know me, it's halfway the zone, so not that particularly interesting probably. Yeah, ascending and descending are flat, but if there is a bit of angle, if this is a bit up like that, and this is up like that, then it starts to become a rising wedge instead of ascending wedge. Ascending wedge is roughly flat, let's say. If there is this angle, it's becoming a rising wedge actually. No problem. So let's take a look at Camarilla. Both the euro and the pound have a crossover, recent crossover. The pound could have maybe a bit more space because ultimately, before we head back to that support zone, could be 155. There could be some space. Maybe the downside and the upside could be interesting. But I think that the upside from here is still the best, personally. I'm not too big of a fan of chasing such a small, I don't know, small movement. But I would say let's take a look at other pairs, see if they are more interesting. Because, you know, as we said last week already, this pound dollar in general is just pretty flat, pretty choppy price action. And when you look at the moving averages like this, so aligned, intertwined, and flat, 4 hour the same, then trading it right at the middle, right in between, smack in between these moving averages, is really not something that attractive. So let's move on. Let's take a look at dollar yen, Aussie, euro yen, dollar CAD. And if you have anything else besides those, let me know if you have a preference. One question, when you have wedges, do you pretty much trade the range? Yes, that could be good. Depends. Like if it's a 4 hour wedge, you know, there's plenty of space. If it's a 5 minute wedge, you know, it's more difficult to trade in general because the spaces are kind of small. Also depends. I mean, if you have a euro dollar 5 minute wedge during London session, that could be very risky because the wedge can break any minute almost. Asian session could be maybe a bit better, but you know, I think wedges are a bit easier to trade if you're looking at a 4 hour chart. Then there's good space often enough. You know, there's a lot of movement still. But you can trade the range, you can trade the bounces, you can trade off support or resistance, or you can wait for the breakouts. Yeah, entering at the edge of it is good. That's the best because then you're waiting for price to get to extreme, waiting for this signal here to short, or maybe not even waiting for it. I mean, if If you have more experience, you might even take it with a pending order as it gets close to this 156.75. We know that this whole zone is resistance. So you can already kind of plan the trade based on the fact that it will turn there without waiting for the price confirmation. But this typically, I would recommend or only say that this is more doable for traders that have more experience, I would say on average, at least. That's my opinion. Some might say everyone can do it. I don't know. I would be more cautious. This is definitely a strong zone, so makes sense. Anyhow, after that, a bit lower, we got the 4-hour candle. Uh, I don't know any statistics. Gold, we can take a look at gold indeed. Gold indeed. Paula, no problem. Good point. And the break, which whether it occurs to the opposite of the trend or with the trend, I never did any research on that. I think we see, I don't know, I would almost say 50-50, but I think what happens often is let's say there is a trend like this. What you'll see often is in maybe retracement, some consolidation, and what you could see is something like this, and then boom, upside again. So you see a break out of the box to the opposite side of the direction, and then almost instantly slam into, or very soon after that, slam into support because of the trend, and it pushes up. That you will see often. Something like, for instance, here. Oh, we have momentum, a rough kind of box, a push down, and boom, up. Yeah, you will see that often indeed. But sometimes you just see continuation. You see, so I don't know. I never did research on it, but you see downside, you see a box, and you see another downside. So both, I think both happen, but we have to be ready for both, I think. Dollar yen. Daily chart. Kind of a funny situation. I mean, I'm kind of in a way curious how this is going to develop. We're very close to that 125.90 top. If we can put a good daily candle close above that, might be back into that massive uptrend we've seen for years already. And that's something that certainly I think could happen. I mean, if we have a dollar interest rate upside, could happen. Yen, the Japanese economy, I don't know. There are some signs perhaps of struggle, so they might want to weaken the currency even more. Obviously, that's their mission so far, and there's a lot of debt. So in the Japanese economy at this moment compared to GDP, so there could be signs that the market could push further here on this dollar yen. Anyhow, from a technical point of view, as long as it stays below that top, I'm still expecting actually more of a correction. Not a big correction, perhaps. Maybe just very simply down to the support level. That could be it. Um, but yeah, I would expect that we see a retest of that trend line. I would expect kind of a wedge like this to build, at least. And that something like this could happen. Is one scenario. But this correction is something that I would expect. Now, if it does break above the trend line and ultimately above the top, that's of course the invalidation for this analysis, and then we'll probably not have that correction. But typically, you do see this is momentum, but typically you'll see a correction before we get a breakout. So I would expect a break below this channel to retest here. Upside, I would not really trade until a daily candle closes above 125. What is it? This top right here, 125.80-ish. The 4-hour chart, we see the channel a bit better. We see also that there was this momentum. now some kind of triangle. So if we break through that triangle, we could follow through with that bearish momentum that's already visible within this uptrend channel. Yes, it is an uptrend channel, but yes, we also see momentum here. So that's why something like this, I think, is not unlikely. Could the opposite happen? Yes, we could have, because there is this kind of, oh, on the 1 hour chart, we have this triangle like this. And we're trying to break to the downside, but the problem is that we have a bigger line here still. So I would rather wait for the green one at the moment. But if we do break to the upside here, then it doesn't mean that it's all, I mean, there could be some small upside. Ultimately, though, I think that this could still turn as it retests this top in here, like this. So the support of the break of green could be continuation of zigzag. The break of orange to the upside could be a small upside to this resistance, which I would expect again a turnaround to the downside. Thirty-minute chart looks choppy. Moving averages aligned here. The Camarilla levels are quite close to each other. It's only 25 pips difference between L3 and L5. That's not a good pair for the Camarilla. Let's move on. Odd USD was just a slow day. Probably odd USD would not be a good one either, because look at yesterday's daily candle. We'll look at the last 3 days for that matter. What do we have? 45 pip day. You know, and that's something, let me drag here the heat map, because that's something we can see quickly. Maybe we can filter out some more interesting pairs. Pound New Zealand, Pound Odd, Pound Cat, Euro New Zealand. Those seem to be the ones that have the, you know, the biggest volatility and most range at the moment. So we can take a look at those. You can see the odd USD is not in that list. So not surprisingly, obviously, when you look at a candle like that. Odd USD, just looking at this chart already, does not seem appealing to me. No. I don't know. Does anyone see anything that they would like to trade here? To me, it just looks too choppy. A quick review of multiple multiple time frames. The daily chart here, big daily bullish candle. We wouldn't want to short that candle against that candle. Personally, I know it's in a downtrend, but if it retests basically this wick or this open here, it could still be bouncing spot. Is it worth trading to the upside? Maybe a year. Still, it's a downtrend. Trend is down. I don't have still some thoughts about it, but ultimately maybe not very interesting. Well, weekly is a downtrend. I think we can agree with that. I think monthly is a downtrend too. Last month was still a very strong daily candle, monthly bearish candle. Lower lows, lower highs, candles too. I think that the overall trend is down. Daily, when you look at the moving averages, when you look at a daily chart like this, still down, I think, in my opinion. But it is true that most recently, when looking at this part, perhaps, it's definitely slowed down. It's kind of rounding, isn't it? So on the daily, it's showing some struggles. And we have that big daily candle here. So daily is, yeah, it used to be a downtrend. Now it's just range indeed. Well, ultimately, I guess everyone has their own view, but I think the weekly and monthly is down. I think we can agree. Daily is range. 4 hours definitely range. Doesn't look so interesting. So let's skip it. Let's take a look at the dollar CAD. Start with a blank chart. I don't use Camarilla on daily chart. No, but you can do it. There is the settings that you can move. You can change the indicator, I'm not sure if Nena does that. I don't personally use it for that. With multiple strategies to choose from, how do you know when to apply what? Well, it depends how you want to trade. I mean, if what I'm doing now is a discretionary analysis, so I use trend lines, moving average, price action as the base, and then depending on what's going on, I kind of add perhaps the AO, add a fractal, add chart patterns. So that's just discretionary wave analysis, perhaps. That's just discretionary trading, looking at which charts are most interesting. And I tend to focus my attention most on charts that have a good movement, have a good trend, have good momentum. That's personally how I like to trade the most. So I try to filter out those trades, those pairs, sorry. And that's discretionary, using multiple tools basically to find the currency and currency time frame that seems most interesting. And what most interesting is could be different for you. But for me, it's always the one that has the best trend or the best momentum. That's my goal. But for other, it could be to find a good, strong level. Right? Everyone has their own way of discretionary trading. If you're looking to trade more non-discretionary, then you want to maybe keep it more focused on a particular set. For instance, if you want to trade very discretionary moving averages, you might want to only look at that. Only look at moving averages, for instance, right? And just wait until a setup is ready. Wait until everything is lined up. Let me quickly add moving averages with the odd USD, for instance. Here, let's say we're looking for a 1 hour trend. We'll just keep looking at the odd USD 1 hour chart. We'll just wait and wait and wait until there's a clear trend. Like for instance, maybe here, well, it's not a clear trend, but here we have the moving average line and price is below it. So that could be the scenario we're waiting for. And last but not least, also these webinars have different kind of topics on purpose so that we discuss different things, look at different angles, and that's also on purpose. So we learn emphasize various elements. So that's why also we probably have a bit more range um, from that point of view. Camarilla, I would not look at, for instance, if I'm swing trading on a 4 hour chart, I don't look at, for instance, Camarilla. All right. Dollar CAD. Wow. Not that interesting to me, sorry. What trade are you in by, I mean, what are you now currently trading, Caitlin? Looks difficult to trade. Curious what trade you have. Could be a bit of a push here. Break was quite small. Triangle like this within a clear bullish momentum. There's a 1 hour trend line indeed. And you're in a long, Caitlin? Not a big fan of yesterday's doji candle. 131.50-ish is the top. Hmm. If you're in the trade, that's great. If you manage to catch it indeed from bouncing spot here, even better. If you're from here, maybe okay, but now probably would need a bit of a pullback indeed. Maybe to 131. 130.80. Back to this trend line perhaps. Yet another bounce. That could be something that within this bigger wedge that we see on the daily chart could still be interesting indeed. For people who, I mean, in general, for those that might want to think about entering, I would think that that could make sense. Now, maybe not so. Um, Maybe the Urian. Let's take a look at the different pair. Maybe the Urian. All right. Let's see. 4 hour chart. Is there a trend going on in the 4 hour chart? Certainly broke above this uptrend. Sorry, this downtrend. Could draw maybe a channel like this. Roughly like this, probably. All right. Um, could be a channel. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at that Caitlin. Let's see. We see a retracement within this uptrend channel. We're probably about halfway the channel. That could be a bouncing spot. Halfway lines in the channel can be considered bouncing spots too. All right. Let's see, what else do we have? We have broken tops that could become support, but lower, maybe. We can use fibs as well. Probably the most recent bottom we could consider. Let's take a look. Well, either this bottom or this bottom. Let me use this bottom. All right. Yeah, this is a 61.8 fib. We already bounced off it. We bounced off the 50. We bounced off the 38.2 fib. So market is kind of seeing this fib. As you can see, it's good to check if the market sees it. Otherwise, it might be good to use the other one. Also respects the 23.6 and 38.2. I guess both are possible to use. At this moment, let's see. It's right at, could be double bottom on a lower time frame. Otherwise, there's maybe a chance to go back to 137.25, 137. That could be an interesting spot, I would say, for a bounce. Let's take a look at the hourly. Taking a look now at the various AO positions. Yeah, I would agree. This is either here could be a bouncing spot or a tad lower at 137. Now, that leads to a couple of things. All right. One of them is indeed the bounce off here or lower. The other could be to wait for a breakout of this resistance line and trade the break as it pushes through this resistance. That would be the alternative. So at this moment, price is really threatening this bottom. I wouldn't say it's a double bottom as yet, by the way, because we don't have enough price action here to confirm that this is a real bottom. So I wouldn't say double bottom yet. It could be if this low doesn't get broken in let's see, next 2 hours probably. I would say it's already a good chance it's a double bottom. At the moment, it seems a bit too soon. It seems like price is trying to threaten. There is momentum that could threaten to break this bottom. So we could see the breakout down to the next support level. So at the moment, I would still be cautious with trading it. I probably rather wait for the breakout. It's possible to take it here, but yeah, either just take the stop loss lower, then it doesn't matter if it breaks. If one uses a tight stop loss, then there's just a higher risk that the trade will end in a loss. But if it does turn right here, then obviously the R2R is better. I myself would probably wait for the breakout or a bounce here. Now, if I look at the dollar yen and the euro dollar, the dollar yen, as I said, looks kind of bearishly set up at this moment, but there is that chance that it could just go sideways in the wedge, and their dollar could bounce. So that could be the reason why the EJ bounces. But ultimately, those factors don't really help. Let me take a look at the Camarilla. Yeah, break above the pivot in H3 for upside and downside, probably bounce at L5. Sorry, upside 2, but from lower. Yeah, we are at L3, so that could be a reason why it bounces now. But I'd probably rather wait a couple of 30-minute candles. This is the fourth 30-minute candle. Rather wait probably for 6 not able to break through this bottom. That could still maybe be an idea then to take a long here at the bottom if it's still there. Or if it makes an upside and something like this. Okay, let me take a look at gold and then we'll take a look at those big movers. Pound, especially we saw on the heat map, is a big one. So what do we have here? We got a rally and now a lack of follow through. No more upside at the moment. We're going sideways. Probably these two trend lines are important, I would say. I mean, if it breaks through these support levels, right, then we might get a break to the downside. We do see some slight downside here already, so we could see that follow through. Upside is possible too. If we get a break above resistance, we could follow through on this momentum. So I would say these triangle lines are important. Yeah, that's true. Nope. Kind of looks like a cup pattern indeed. I don't look for them, but you're right. I think it just needs a handle, I think still. Or let's see. I don't know exactly. Maybe this is the handle. Like that. 4-hour chart um, and daily chart, we're getting back into resistance. Got big bottoms here. That's going to be tough. I mean, we would expect some turn back down at these resistances. So if it does break to the upside, I wouldn't expect a lot. If it does break, we're going to bump into resistance very soon. So I would rather grab profit. I don't trade gold at this moment, but would rather trade quickly. Take profit quickly if I did. It is minus 272 target. Oil broke the bottom below 44 now at 42. Energy prices going down, so maybe that could stimulate the economy. I mean, overall, it is globally, it's definitely struggling. So I think that I'm not sure if this is enough to help it. Um, Therefore, also pretty curious what the U.S. will be saying about the interest rate hike, because actually it will be going against the global trend of still easing, monetary easing, accommodation, not much tightening going on. US would be the first. US is typically the first, is typically leading when you look at the interest rates. But maybe they're going to have some doubts about doing it too soon. Let's see. Pretty interesting. We'll see tomorrow. All right, back to currency pairs. We saw that the pound crosses were interesting from a heat map perspective. All right, any trade ideas here? Does anyone see something on the pound odd? Scrolling through different time frames, monthly, weekly, this is daily. 4 hour. 1 hour. Caitlin says momentum on the monthly. Let's take a look. Yeah, definitely. Good observation. Let's see, we had 11th candle pushing through this top. So that's a bit earlier than I expect, but so this is one momentum leg. This was a correction, and now we're in a new momentum. So a retracement of that monthly candle could already be a bouncing spot. And so far, we indeed bounced at the 50 fib. Looking at the weekly candles, 2 weeks ago we had a downside, last week an upside. So the 61.8 could still be interesting if it gets there, because last week was bullish. But some wick at there at the top. So that candle does not really give a lot of info. The wick on top, bullish candle. Big daily bearish candle with sideways candles. 4-hour chart. Momentum up and down, starting to get a bit choppier. So, well, we can see from Caitlin's monthly candle is that if it does get lower, it could be interesting to the 50 to 61.8. Perhaps as it makes a zigzag correction like this, it could be a good bouncing spot. Beverly has the observation of entering perhaps off the 4-hour long-term moving average. Let's see. That would be, let's say if it gets back into this zone. Let's see. It did already, I mean, your idea makes sense. It already actually bounced there perhaps 3 times, maybe 4. So that idea makes sense. It could always do it a 4th or 5th time again, right? So it does, there is some value. There is, that definitely makes sense. And it's always a spot where price can bounce. As you can see, if it does get there, it does provide some good bounces. And it could do again. So something to definitely think about as well, besides the even lower retracements if it gets there. The alternative, I mean, when we look at the monthly chart, we are in uptrend, so alternative could be a breakout, but we would definitely need to break probably above, let's see, we need to break out of there above these moving averages. But we did that already in the past, as you can see here and here we didn't go too far. So maybe waiting for the break above this resistance. Oh, would be a tad better. A nice entry at the finish of the pin bar. Let's see. This one here? Yeah, that would have been nice. Definitely. Sometimes, you get good signals that unfortunately we just miss from a time perspective. Obviously, we can monitor charts frequently, but sometimes you're going to uh, miss some price action. Just you can't keep an eye on it for forever. But yeah, that was, if you were watching it, that looked like a good one. Agree. Cool. So yeah, back to support basically, or deeper bounce spots, or perhaps break spot if it does go above the red line here. Quite choppy if you look at the 4 hour. Same like the odd USD, isn't it? Also choppy in the 4 hour. Which else was a big mover? Pound CAD, wasn't it? Let's take a look. Got the breakout of this triangle and now hooking back to support. So let's take a look at this hook back. 61.8 fib already retraced. Still, it doesn't appeal to me somehow. Let's see if there's something else. These pounds have a lot of movement, but they seem to be more moving in a roller coaster here, not something that's very appealing to me. Pound is even might be a bit different if it gets down to this support level right here, 235, 40ish, 30ish. This bottom, this support level, this trend line. Pound Swiss looks actually bearish. I mean, their moving averages are totally worthless, but this looks more like a bear flag, or it isn't a bear flag, but it's a channel. But still, it's a channel that has been broken after some serious uh, bearishness here. That looks actually more bearish. News event is in 40 minutes. Could be something to look for. Pound Swiss, perhaps downside. I'm not a big fan of trading this risky. Let's see if there's anything else. Does anyone else have a maybe more exotic pair that they looked at? Euro Cat, I think, was also high on the list of the heat map. Well, it's definitely 4 hour chart is showing an uptrend. But there is some struggle when you look at these daily candles. And we did break through this support level. I'd be cautious. I would be neutral at the moment. I want to see more information. Probably, for instance, if I would want to trade it long, I would need to see it move up. Probably it will hit resistance, move down again. And what I want to see here is a failure to break this bottom, and then I might be interested in longs. But otherwise, I'm still cautious because this could be a break of a neckline and could send this even lower down to this long-term moving average. So ultimately, either above here upon weakness or from support for upside. It is an uptrend, so either one of these three things, but not at the moment. That's what I mean with more information. Like I'd rather be waiting here. New Zealand yen, let's take a look at that. Let me renew this template. What do we got here? Ooh, wow, that's a big range. Probably traded it as a bounce to the upside. That I would assume at least that. Nice job. It seems like a typical range trade. Great. Yeah, that makes sense. Good job. Yeah, this is a bear flag. Big bear flag, isn't it? 23.6 fib should break to the downside. It's a huge bear flag. It's a daily bear flag, so would want to see a daily candle push through and close below the bottom and support. Definitely worth keeping an eye on this one. Keep an eye on the daily chart. Could be interesting. The Aussie, most of these Aussies are not that great. Let's see. Ah, maybe we could take a look at the DAX. Why not? DAX. Hmm. Still at this green line, and below that, still this support. Well, if it breaks through that support, then yeah, there is that chance to fill this space between the long-term and the short-term moving average. Otherwise, this could be a bouncing spot to stay in this range, for instance. So at the moment, downside seems a bit risky right in front of that support. Upside could be an option, but so far I would not say that there is any clue that price action signal that is a good thing to think about as yet. All in all, as you can see, if I can summarize it, not a ton of things that I find very, very interesting. The dollar yen, just out of curiosity, if it does break support, the euro yen uh, looked interesting for a bounce potential or break um, to the upside. The pound odd maybe, right, from that bouncing spot or break two. Ultimately, pound dollar maybe from lower as a bounce. Euro dollar maybe a bit lower for a bounce up. So as you can see, generally probably a tad more bearish on the dollar, slightly expecting euro and pound dollar maybe to fall a bit, but then hit, expecting to hit its support as for the moment at least. So still expecting euro and pound to make a bit more rally. So hence, all in all, still a bit more dollar bearish for the moment. But in the long run, when you look at the entire year still, that's let's say for the next few weeks maybe, week or two roughly. Ultimately, in the long run, let's say the rest of this year, I do expect the dollar to make. There's a good chance I think that the dollar will make one more rally. Yeah, exactly, way. Indeed, drifting around until the rate hike and probably then a fall. Indeed, agree. ADR, I have not used that often. Uh, so no, yeah, little to say about it. Does anyone else have maybe um, some opinion about ADR? Let's take a look at the euro yen. 1, 2, 3. This is the fourth candle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. This was the 17th, 7th, 15th. That's good. The more, if there is momentum kicking in, then let's see if it does hit the like this with good candles. I might look for a pullback and take it upon the pullback. But I want to see some good, good push here, pullback. Might take it then here. Yeah, the 1 hour pin bar is indeed um, was good engulfing here. True. So there are several, there were several options. One was as Caitlin did here. That was one way. I didn't do it or go for it, but that was one way. Second would have been lower. Um, Third is waiting for the momentum and waiting for the pullback. Waiting for the momentum, waiting for the pullback, and waiting for the breakout. All right, folks. Let's see. Tomorrow we got strategy, so I hope to see you then. Invite your friends, take them along. We'll have a good strategy session together. And Wednesday evening, then it's going to take a look at Heiken Nashi. That could be very interesting. And Thursday, Ned and I are going to take a look at establishing the correct swings. So that's the agenda for this week. You can find that by going to admiralmarkets.com, go to education, and go to webinars. All right, so otherwise, trade safe and happy hunting. Thanks for all your feedback and comments. Always appreciate it, and talk to you soon. Cheers.